Okay, looks like the mic is working. So I'm back for another another rant, another monologue, whatever the hell you want to call this. Talking to whoever's listening. So when I was a lad, when I was a boy, adults always used to say, if someone bullies you, if someone teases you, if somebody's trying to annoy you in order to elicit an emotional reaction from you, what you need to do to get that person to stop is you need to ignore that person. That was the universal, ubiquitous advice from adults when I was a boy. None of these people who would describe themselves as anti-Trump have been mature enough, have been adult enough to take that advice. Because that's what this guy does is he acts intentionally ridiculous in order to get emotional responses out of people, because it's just a fact. Any press is good press, and bad press is actually the best press. Because what happens is when people hate you, they're actually worshiping you. So that's why I titled this video as such. Don't like Trump, stop worshiping him. That's what these people are doing. You're especially seeing this among, people of his generation, so the baby boom. So we're talking like 1944, 45 through, what is it, 1964. It's in that window. That's where you see, by and large, the strongest emotional reactions. So it's straight up worship. I'm really sick of hearing these people bitch. And the ironic thing is that they're making him even more powerful. And that's an ironic thing. You've got so many people who they profess a belief in God and they're all about spirituality. But the minute you suggest this idea that you're fixing your constant attention on something, whether it be adoration or whether it be hate, if you suggest to these people who proclaim themselves as spiritual and religious and all this bullshit, then they're like, "Oh, that's just nonsense. That's a fucking new age conspiracy theory. I mean, no such thing as energy. People can't use your energy." It's like, oh, really? If you look around, really the most valuable commodity in the world is blind faith. People think everything in the world happens because of money, and many things do, but money is merely a means to an end. Really, the most valuable commodity in this world is blind faith. And obsessing over somebody that you hate, that you can't stand, wishing constant disaster and sickness and imprisonment and death on someone, that's a form of worship. Hating somebody is actually more potent than adoring them, because there's more energy behind those emotions. You look at the word emotion, it looks like energy in motion. That's not the etymology, that's not the meaning of that word, but there's something to that, because energy is moving in your body when you have different emotional reactions. When they hook people's heads up to what is that, ECG, it's a EEG, electroencephalograph, measures the electricity in the brain. That instrument displays different wave functions when people have different emotions. So it's literally energy moving through your body. So if you haven't figured out that this guy, the Trump phenomenon, that he loves all attention no matter what it is, then you're oblivious. Um, and that's just the fact of the matter. So hate really is a form of worship. Hate is not the opposite of love. The opposite of love is apathy. Apathy is when you can just dismiss something or somebody that you don't particularly care for without passion. Okay. That's the opposite of love. It's just apathy. It's like, yeah, whatever. That's what people used to do to Klan rallies, to Ku Klux Klan rallies, to KKK rallies. They would just fucking ignore them, and the whole rally would last like 20 minutes, and these guys would go home because that's what they wanted. They wanted an emotional reaction that they could fight against, that they could play with. So hating somebody actually makes them extremely popular. And what's interesting here is people learn this shit in church. So there are no bigger Satan worshipers in the world than Christians and Muslims. Jews really don't get into it. I know a lot of people who've left Judaism because they say it has no spiritual foundation, really. It's about enjoying getting rich, in this material world. So it's like a lot of them have left and become Christians because they wanted spirituality. So Christianity and Islam has just this really dark spirituality, if you want to call it that, that's full of all kinds of paranoid fantasies. And in a lot of churches, people are just like they're obsessing about hating Satan and wanting to banish Satan and kill Satan. Well, the thing is, you're worshiping Satan when you're preoccupied with fucking Satan. And that's been a church tactic forever, is telling people they're going to go to hell if they don't live like the church says they should. If you're not socially compliant enough, you're going to go to hell. They don't even know what hell is. Hell was, I don't want to get off on a tangent. Hell was the underworld for our Germanic ancestors. It was just where souls go between lives and the cycles of reincarnation. It had nothing to do with torment, torture, damnation, punishment, nothing like that. It was a resting place. It's like when you're playing a sport, you sit on the bench when you get tired. Same damn thing. When the church conquered the Germanic lands, they stole the concept of hell and turned it into a torture chamber. So anyway, churches teach people to worship Satan. Well, why is this? Because it gives them a purpose, okay? So this whole two-party system, it's just secular Christianity. It's secular Abrahamism. Islam's the same fucking thing. So what you have, people pick a party. Now, because it's their side is just wonderful, and they're angels, and they're the good side. And then the opposite side is automatically the evil side. So who's evil? Well, Satan's evil. So, as a Christian or a Muslim, it's very easy to know who the evil people are, because it's the people who disagree with you. They're the evil ones. It's that fucking simple. Because our side is good. So politics comes from this. You choose a side. Your side's the godly side. The other side's the satanic side. It's very childish. It's very medieval childish. And this whole Trump worship phenomenon really comes down to childishness. The West, particularly like the Anglosphere, the US, Canada, Great Britain, but even just the NATO countries in general, we do not have elders in our society. We've not had elders for about 20 years. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that mass media, so music, television, movies in the 1960s, they promoted drug use and alcohol abuse, because that's what all the cool guys do. That's what the pretty popular girls do. So when people get into lifelong habits, it's like it arrests their development. So if you start hitting it hard as a teenager, you're gonna be a teenager. You start hitting it hard when you're 25, you're going to stay 25. I'm not judging people. I'm not putting people down. That's just the fucking fact of the matter. Because to mature, in order to find wisdom, in order to grow your level of wisdom, you have to feel your feelings. You have to be in the moment in life. You can't just tune out. Life's not fucking easy, and I'm not trying to say that, but we're not here to escape. We're here to live it. So, and anger is all about, we deal with anger all the time. Well, anger it's our last defense before we admit that we created our lives and we had a part in creating the world we live in. So anger is resistance to taking responsibility for what we've done in life. It's not easy, but that's just the way it is. So yeah, with since the 1960s, with all the cool guys and all the pretty popular girls, fucking hitting the bottle and hitting the drugs, it's like we do not have elders in our society. And this is a thing that empires do. So when empires conquer countries, historically, one of the things they do is they kill all the old people, because the people with the most experience, if they've been seeking to mature, seeking to get wiser, seeking to grow, they know a lot. Because it's like even a question that I've asked people before. I've asked, have you lived 80 years, or did you live the same year 80 times? It's like that with any age. Did you live that many years, or did you just live the same year over and over? So that's what we've been doing since the 60s. So empires will actually physically go, historically, when they occupy a country, not always, but it is a tactic that has been used. They'll go and they'll kill all the old people in the conquered society, because then the younger people, they have no examples. They have no examples that show them how to behave, how to deal with situations that come up in life. Television's been a big part of this, because when you mix mind-altering substances with television, you literally have mind programming. So things that alter your mind, your emotional state, things that bury your feelings, and there's a whole spectrum. It goes from like hardcore narcotics down to like sugar and coffee and all that kind of shit. Alcohol's in between. You've got prescription drugs, mood stabilizers, antidepressants, anti-anxieties. Not judging people who take them. That's just how it is. You got this whole spectrum of these chemicals that mask the way we feel from ourselves. So what these do, these mind-altering substances, they take the edge off our stress because they shut down blood circulation in what's called the frontal cortex, the front of the brain. So this frontal cortex is where our executive function takes place. It's where we reason. It's where we order our thinking. It's our critical thinking. So when you do that, it shuts it down. So basically we go back to, when we're drunk, when we're high, whatever, we go back to about 6 years old emotionally. Things like combat stress are the same thing, or just, the stress of being attacked by someone. Traumatic events as well. They get you back to about 6 years old on an emotional level. And in, first world modern Western society, we sort of live in a state of constant stress and trauma. So it dumbs us down emotionally. So you mix the constant stress, you mix the mind-altering chemicals, and then the television. So the stress and the mind-altering chemicals shut down the front of your brain, the executive function, the reasoning, the common sense, the critical thinking. Television, you can look this up about television. This isn't some wacky conspiracy theory. Television as well, mass media will actually shut down, rhetorical nonsense. That's exactly right. Television shuts down this critical thinking. It gets us back into our mammalian and our reptilian brains, our more primitive brains. So your cat, your dog has a mammalian brain, but not a frontal cortex. They also have the reptilian brain. So it gets us back into these more primitive brains and it just implants suggestions into us. It's like hypnosis or, torture-based mind control. Television falls under the MK Ultra umbrella. If you don't know what MK Ultra is, it's a program that the CIA admitted to running, and on their Scouts honor, they swore they stopped. Sure. So this program was it was a joint venture between Americans and between Germans and Nazis who were given war crimes immunity and brought to the United States. And if you don't know this, in the early days, CIA and NSA were half Nazi, mostly Nazis, not so many German military people. So it was half Nazi, half American. So they created this broad mind control program, and mass media is absolutely part of it. So back to the Trump phenomenon. He's leveraging this. And it's not so much him. He probably doesn't want to be president in all likelihood. He probably owes people favors for getting him to where he is today, for being a mega billionaire bullshit artist developer. He probably owes people favors, and they're like, yeah, you're going to have to be president because you're a great actor. You're a great reality TV show personality. So we need you. We're calling a favor in, and you're gonna have hell to pay. It's gonna be terrible if you don't do what we say. It's very likely what's going on with him. I don't know who would want to do that job, honestly. So, yeah, it's a little too much too late. Things are never going to go back to the way they were in this country or, in the Western world in general, because we pissed it away since the 60s. But if you want to improve things, stop thinking that hating someone and bitching about someone constantly is changing anything. You're not the resistance. You don't fight somebody and resist somebody by watching TV or looking at your phone and bitching about the curated videos that these multi-billion-dollar media companies are feeding to you. You're not going to be remembered as a fucking hero like the World War II veterans because you watched the screen and bitched about a reality TV character called President Donald Trump. Like, we're not going to remember you as a hero. So if that's a consideration, get that out of your head. You will be remembered as no such thing. I guarantee you. Maybe by some like pink and blue haired dingbats, in the big cities on the West Coast and, the Northeast, the upper Midwest, but that's about it. Pretty small pool. So yeah, hate is not the opposite of love. Hate is a form of love. It's like when, you're in a relationship and you get dumped and you're all pissed off at the person who dumped you for fucking weeks, months, maybe years. And, you're always talking, it's like when you're talking shit constantly and, saying ridiculing things, you're actually worshiping the person. It's a form of love. Hate is like, it's a form of heartbroken love. And that's really the relationship that Donald Trump's detractors, the people who don't like him, that's the relationship that his detractors have with him. They want to be in love with him and they do want to adore him, but he's not acting the way they want. So then they're worshiping him in this other way, other than just straight up adoration. It's a very ugly form of adoration. So if you don't like someone, ignore the person, because this person is just trying to get an emotional response out of you. But that that takes more maturity and wisdom than we actually have. So, it's a real it's a real tough situation to be in. It's not those are not skills we've used in a long time. So, yeah. Good luck. So, let me see what else I wanted to say about that. And on the other side, if you don't like the Democratic Party and their whole shit show that they have that complements, then stop worshiping them. Stop fucking thinking about them, bitching about them, making fun of them, ridiculing them. Just drop it and they'll deflate. Anybody you don't like will deflate if you fucking ignore them. As long as they're not physically attacking you. And that's the other hilarious thing is like this political news is just a reality TV show. It's absolutely ridiculous. So people are hating a television character who they've never met. Now, how people can trust or hate or despise somebody they've never met is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I don't know how that works. People think that they can sit in their hometown and watch television for years and know how the world works. And there's no thought process of, maybe these multi-billion dollar media companies are curating the information that comes to me so that they can shape my perceptions. No. That would require too much common sense, critical thinking, maturity, and wisdom. We don't do that here, especially since the 60s. We don't do that here. So, yeah. So yeah, if you don't want to take that kind of responsibility, then just keep bitching. Keep bitching about the condition everything's in and how horrible Donald Trump is and da 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 da. So yeah, everybody's gonna have it their way, but this is a different perspective here. But yeah, so yeah, none of the adults that said that when I was a boy, they're not capable of living it if they don't like that guy, or they're not capable of doing that with any television personality that they don't like. That's the other thing too, is this whole thing is a really shitty stage play and people think it's real. So yeah, it's pretty bad. So I think that's everything I have to say about that. And we're just over 20 minutes. Not bad. Thanks guys for dropping in. Adam Buckle, 333. Captain Trips. Captain, that's a good name. Captain Trips G7W. I wonder if you I'm guessing that's a reference to The Stand, which was yeah, it was a pretty good story. It's like Stephen King, like on some level felt the Wuhan cooties coming. So not so much the Wuhan cooties, but then the Jabberwockies that were the remedies for the Wuhan cooties, the Jabberwockies and the needlecraft. That's really the thing that sets up the Stand scenario. Yeah. All right. See you later. Oh. Yeah, that's it. Take it easy.